When performing risk assessments, we have two different techniques available to assess the likelihood and impact of a risk: qualitative techniques and quantitative techniques. Qualitative risk assessment is concerned with discovering the probability of a risk event occurring and the impact that the risk will have if it does occur. Qualitative techniques evaluate risk's likelihood and impact via the use of a subjective rating. Qualitative techniques may include, for example, brainstorming, interviewing, historical data, SWOT analysis, and risk rating scales. Quantitative techniques, on the other hand, use objective numeric ratings to evaluate risk, likelihood, and impact. Displayed, we have an example of a qualitative risk assessment chart. When considering a specific risk, the assessor first rates the likelihood low, medium, or high, and then does the same for the impact. The chart then categorizes the overall risk. Security professionals performing quantitative risk assessments do so for a single risk asset pairing. As they conduct this assessment, they must first determine the values of several variables. The first of these variables is the asset value, or AV. The asset value is the dollar value of an asset. Risk assessors determining asset value have several options at their disposal. The original cost technique simply looks at invoices from an asset purchase and uses the purchase price to determine the asset value. The benefit of using this approach is that it is rather easy to use. It simply requires referencing invoices to determine the asset value. The downfall to this approach is that the actual asset value may be drastically different than what's actually on the invoice if the asset value has changed over time. The depreciated cost approach reduces the value of an asset over time as it ages. The depreciation technique uses an estimate of the asset's useful life and then gradually decreases the asset's value until it reaches zero at the end of its projected lifespan. The replacement cost technique determines the actual cost of replacing an asset. Risk managers favor this approach because it produces results that most closely approximate the actual cost that an organization will incur if the risk materializes. It takes into consideration the current prices to determine the actual cost of replacing an asset in the current market and uses that cost as the asset's value.